Recording. Happy Monday. 4 days till Friday. You don't know why I'm looking at the screen. You can't see me. So I'm going to turn back to look at all these great faces. Welcome to Math, Magnificent Math. Math is fun. Let's go to page 6. Page 6. And we'll talk about independent, dependent variables, inputs, outputs, and so forth. And first of all, you can represent relationships many different ways. In fact, I want to show you, except for, there's off. It's okay, it won't take me long to get this. Who knows, well, sorry, I shouldn't ask that question because the answers are right in front of you. Okay, so you can either see a relationship between numbers on the table of values, which you can plot as points, which you can create as lines or parabolas. Mapping diagram, arrow diagrams, called the same thing, ordered pairs, 20, 10, 20, 10. This is 20 to the right, 10 up, 20 goes to 10. And you can see all of these representations are the same, and there's even more on the next page. An equation, if you put in 20, you would get 10 for that equation. And it's pretty cool, a couple pages there. No, you guys, no standing ovations. It's too early. It's Monday, what am I doing? This isn't good. Can't believe it, my standing ovation 10 minutes into Monday. Man, I'm good. He said to himself. Alright, let's talk about dependent and independent. Independent variable. First of all, I know a variable means letter. So when I ask you for the independent variable and dependent variable, you need to give me a letter, not a number. Not a number with a letter, just a letter. AKA pi. Pi is not a variable, it's a number. 3.141529 ... So the dependent variable is y, because we need an x to find out y. Okay, y depends on x. If x equals 3, then y equals 4. If x equals 10, then y equals 25. So y is dependent on x, and that makes x the independent variable. There's some fancy-dancy math words for you. Not too many people get the inputs of any and outputs. That makes sense. Inputs are x, outputs are y. And this is just saying that any coordinate starts with x first and y's are second. So write that down. Again, know that this is x the independent or the dependent? Dependent. And y is the independent variable. Is x the input or the output? That makes sense to most people. That's the input, and that's the output. So we're going to just splash around that terminology right now for the next page. And you can see domain and range. Well, you better know, and you will know because we'll say it a million times, that domain means x. And I wish these were mixed up because the x, the y is kind of on the left side, but usually we put the domain on the left side and range on the left side and range on the right side because it goes x, y. But domain means x. Independent variable means x. Range means y. Output and dependent variable. You need to know those all go together. Leave you 3 more seconds to write that down before we start asking questions. Actually, it says do. So try 2A right now. Next page. Did everyone get one of these? You guys got these? You guys? You guys? Yeah. Okay, thanks, Rose. Sam, did you go? So these are the next 2 units. I haven't heard anything. I'm assuming we're here for the rest of the year. I'm just making sure we have everything, just in case we get sent home one day, which hopefully never happens. Go ahead. Ms. Gurr. So just make sure you don't lose those, because that cost $100 million to photocopy for you. But you can see that these 2 units are as big as the other one, so that's good. Next. Joe, you going? You're gonna next, 2A. Okay, first of all, make sure you answer all the questions. Some of them are tricky, they kind of, especially when we get to the next couple pages, they're just kind of easy to miss if you go right to the chart. But here it says, what's the independent and dependent? So I want you to write them separately. I don't want any arrows, I don't want any, what's the independent variable? Is it P or Q? Pardon? Nope, we tried. Is independent X or Y? What does it say? Independent X or Y? Last page. It's your X. And these guys are going to be written as XY, XY, XY. Okay, they're always in alphabetical order. So independent variable is X, so it is P marks the spot. Which means the dependent variable is my nickname. I love my nickname. Now this is where input doesn't really, everyone gets the input, so let's get those 3 marks. However, I'm just going to warn you, if there was a number 3 here, and there was no arrow to anything, it would not be an input. You might even want to add that, just in case I made the question a little harder. And if you didn't get the input, I'll give you 10 seconds to write down the output, and try to put them with squiggly lines. Squiggly lines aren't hard. You'll master it in 25 years. Exactly how to write a squiggly line. Helps if you have hiccups. Tough crowd. So the inputs here are 10 and 16. B, go! Did you B? Corrected? You didn't get A, who cares? B. Take your best guess. You guys are awesome. Podcast people, I'm wearing a bright, happy outfit today. I got a black Nike golf pants on with black Solomon shoes and black Under Armour fishing shirt and black Under Armour fishing t-shirt underneath. Member of New Zealand. By the way, that's a rugby poster. Actually, it's from the Wallabies. Washington Wallabies and Springboks in Sydney. That's actually a nice introduction to what I want to talk to you today. So, a map poster is actually a rugby sign from a big event in Australia. And I'm going to bring these to the forefront, except for I can't really move this podcast. But here, let's stay. And stay. Oh, chocolate bar time. Chocolate bar number 91. 16. Okay, they're here, so we'll count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. The boss. Come get it. You don't have to stick your number 1 finger up. Talk trash, just eat the chocolate bar. Thank you. Well done. Nothing like a chocolate bar for breakfast. It's a good week. Anyways, this was me, second year university. I had zero desire to travel. I had gone somewhere. My dad took us to Disneyland when I was 13. But I think maybe I went out of province once. I had no desire to leave Saskatoon. And then our professor, Mr. Murphy, who came in for a night class. He was great. Sometimes we get out an hour early. This time, he's like, I don't think he said hell, but I'm going to make it dramatic. What the hell is wrong with you guys? Got all our attention. He goes, why have you not applied to the exchange program in New Jersey? They're paying you to go to school in New Jersey. And I'm a nerd, I'm taking notes. I'm a nerd. And then he started describing all of his life travels, because he traveled everywhere in the world, and they were amazing. And after this class, this is how a teacher influenced me, I was like, right to the education office, and I applied for the exchange program. And I had zero desire to travel before that. Now, I think you guys are different. I think you guys have probably traveled a lot more than I did. But unfortunately, that's not the case right now. But it will be the case in a year or two, and we can travel again and so forth. Anyways, I got into the exchange program, and then I got into law school early, so I didn't go, and I thought that was that. And then I decided to leave law school because I didn't like it all, and I applied for this exchange program again, and I didn't think I had any chance because I bailed on them the first time. And I got it again. So I went to New Jersey for a year. I was the Canadian exchange student. Everyone in New Jersey thought I represented Canada. All Canadians really me. And it was the best year of my life. It was awesome. We had an exchange program. I was the only one from Canada, but there was students from, I think, 25 different countries. And there was students from all around the States. So there was, I don't know, probably 30, 40 students from California, Georgia, Wisconsin, Florida. We were an hour from New York. We didn't drive. We took the train to New York every Wednesday. In New York every Wednesday. How fun was that? And so forth and so forth. All thanks to Professor Murphy, because honestly, if he didn't teach that class, if I didn't go to that class that day, I wouldn't have even thought about it. And of course, my travel bug grew, and this is all the stuff we've done. Some of the stuff we've been to, I think 27 different countries, and I've been to so many cities in the States I can't remember. This is Switzerland, Guatemala. We built houses, LA, Boston. Went to a game and a duck tour. Mediterranean cruise for a honeymoon. Malaysia, where I proposed. I was on the cruise ship. That's Hawaii. This is New Orleans for New Year's. What does it say? Bermuda, Costa Rica, Singapore. Hawaii, and South Africa. There's South Africa. And that's why I can't shut up. I have a story every time someone mentions any word of any kind. I have a story about baseball, about a Kleenex box, about a backpack, and it's so much fun. This is what we did. We traveled, and then we had kids. So my son is 5. My friends that I graduated high school with, their sons are 35. We traveled first. This is Athens, Greece, Costa Rica, Cape Town, which is where is it? Great white shark diving. Oh, that was fun. This is hang gliding in Brazil, and I actually fought a bull in Mexico. They wanted someone to fight a bull from the crowd. And so I asked, no one said yes, and they asked again, all right. Like, I'm sure, I'm not fighting a bull. So I'm like, okay, what is this? Like a mechanical bull? Is it a kitty cat? No, it was a bull, just a baby bull. I had flip-flops on, and there were 3 of us. And guess what color I got? Red! They gave me a red one. I know that means death. I have no idea how they did this. It was pretty dangerous, actually. One guy got hit pretty good and flown into the air. Anyways, running near San Francisco, Muir Forest. Joburg, we did safari, amazing. South Africa again. And that looks like Malta. That's Malta, a very tiny island in the Mediterranean. Mediterranean, that's the restaurant I worked in, Mediterranean Cruise. This was funny. I met my wife in LA, but she didn't know I was there, so we were at the Hard Rock Cafe, and I asked them if I could be her waiter. And I had just gone to a Dodgers game, so I had blue hair and a blue beard. And as she met her friend, I surprised them. And I said, hello, I'll be your waiter today. Can I get you something to drink? And she didn't even look at me. She said, yeah, water, please. So I do it again. Hello, can I take your order? Anyways, you got to be fun. And I've got so much more than just these pictures of places we went, but also sporting events I've been to, also fishing, fish I've caught throughout the world. Travel, travel, travel. And if you're a teacher, you guys should be teachers, the best job in the world. I tell all young teachers I meet, go travel. My wife taught in Singapore, Japan, Australia, London, and then Bermuda. I think I'm missing one. Oh yeah, okay. I just taught in Bermuda, but it was a blast. In Bermuda, I traveled many, many places on the East Coast. Because it was, honestly, I think it was $200 to fly to Boston from Bermuda. There back. $200 to go to New York, maybe 300 at the most. So it was pretty cool. Thank you. Thank goodness I met Mr. Murphy, because I like some beans. That's a good. And I didn't know anything different. I was fine. I was content. I wasn't sad or mad that I wasn't traveling. I didn't even care. Okay, let's do B. Independent variable is your X, so your V. And dependent variable is your A. Inputs, I'll put them here. Inputs are 4, 10, 25. Put these in numerical order. And if there is a number that repeats, you don't need to tell me that 15 is part of the output twice. 15 is an output, then 15 is an output. You don't need to tell me that 15 is an output again. All right, do C. I want to go traveling. See you guys. Bye. So much fun. Safari was awesome. Elephants, it's before you even started it. And that river. hear the hippos as we slept overnight. It was exhausting. Our guide wanted to wake up at 6 in the morning so we'd see all the animals, and we were fine with that. Alright, I gotta tell you one story. From that safari, we're with our guide. This is us two and him. It was awesome. Lots of time for us. And he said, okay guys, I'm really good at my job, but occasionally you might see an animal that I don't. Okay, so just let me know, and we'll stop or whatever. And so this happens 10 seconds into our tour. Like, I'm not, maybe even 5. He starts the vehicle, and my wife yells, "Lion!" And I'm just laughing. I don't even look because I know it's not a lion because her eyes aren't great. And it was a rock. And I might have bugged her 1,000 times about this, probably per year. Every time we see a rock, I yell, "Lion!" Ah, it's a good story. Okay, so your X here, your independent is your B, your dependent is your C, and then for your inputs, you just write down all the X's. Okay, so your inputs, sorry, can't spell inputs, are 3, 4, 5, 6. Squiggly lines, the squiggly lines are getting better. And the outputs, 7-Eleven. Hey, I like this question a lot. Just try example 3. Which all the podcast people are booking tickets right now, flying around the world. That's good. Good. When you're on a cruise, I wouldn't pay money for the extra tours. Just go on your own, have your freedom. The other good thing we did when we traveled is when we got to the airport, we never took a taxi from the airport. We always rented a car. And when you rent a car, you can go anywhere you want. You also don't have to pay $100 for a cab ride when you fly into New York. You can drive away from the lion. Okay, these example 3s are more challenging, so star them up. Study star them. Take your best guess. Remember, variable means letter. So you shouldn't have a 2 anywhere. Okay, so this one, you only have 2 things to do, okay? But just be careful, it could say inputs, outputs. Just read the question carefully so you don't miss anything. So independent is the X. You can't put x because there is no x. So independent variable, first of all, look at your top left corner of your calculator. Top left corner of your calculator says what? Oh, now let's put your hand up. Top left corner. What's that? Okay, what does it say? Top left corner. Yeah, blue one. Not the yellow one. Yeah. Nope. It's your physical. You're not pressing anything. You're just looking at your calculator. What's the top left corner? Yep. Y equals. Okay, so if you have D equals or P equals, that's your Y. Yeah, that's your dependent variable. So this is Y. So I'm going to start with my dependent variable on this one. It is big C. And what's the other one? Is it 2 pi, 2 pi r, pi r, pi, or r? It's just r. Okay, but pi is a number for us. It represents 3.14 ... This one is like any graph. Your x is horizontal axis, your y is the vertical axis. And when you do that, now you should be able to see which one is independent and which one is dependent. So dependent, we're going with x. It's not x though, so if you put x there, that's great, but remember there is no x. What's the dependent variable, everyone? T, good job. And independent? H. Good. I can do a giraffe. Speaking of safaris. Safari was awesome. Anybody been on the safari? Where to? Calgary Zoo? Yeah, that's close. Free, that's a tough one. You remember your name? Okay, and this one says S is dependent. So S is dependent. And T is independent. All right, so homework, page 7 and 8. So far, we'll build on that. You'll be happy to know. Let's move on to graphing without a calculator, like the old dinosaur days. Okay, so go to page 8, mid to page 8. We're going to complete this table of values, and then we're going to plot points, and then we're going to answer the questions. First thing I want to do is just remind ourselves that independent variable is the x, and dependent variable is y. I'm just going to write that down to review our last concept. All right, so our x here is -2. We need to find out what the y equals when x equals -2. And to do that, we use the formula I provide for you. Y equals 2x subtract 5. So if x equals -2, wherever we see an x, we put -2. And then you punch that in your calculator or do it in your big fat brain, you get -9. So you write down -9 right here. And luckily on Friday, we remember how to plot points. So this is the ordered pair when x equals -2, y equals -9. So that's an ordered pair, -2, -9. So go ahead and fill in the rest of this chart for me using the formula. And I give you the x. You got to find the dependent variable when I give you x. Where do you see an x? You put -1, calculate it, put 0, put 1, put 2, calculate it, calculate it, calculate it. And you'll get 5 points on that line. Make sure you're on the right track. The next one, so I put -1. I put 2x becomes 2 times -1, subtract 5. Anybody get -7? Okay, so -1, -7. When you're done those, go to the next page and plot these points on the graph, please. You're not done the table, finish the table. So much fun. Hang glide, safari, great white shark diving, scuba diving with sharks. Races, tours, fighting a bull. Best part out of that was after I caught him, I barbecued him up. Actually, I did another bullfight in Portugal. It was disgusting. Guys, you don't go to bullfights if you enjoy animals. It's pretty cruel. Okay, 0 times, sorry, 2 times 0, subtract 5 is -5. So 0, -5, 2 times 1, subtract 5 is -3. Now, I might say, okay, this must be -1, but don't assume that, because I might not give you 2 here, I might give you 3. and then it's not -1, you don't have a nice straight line. So just calculate it instead of taking shortcuts. So this is 2, so 2 times 2 subtract 5 is 4 subtract 1, and there you go. So those are the points that you're going to plot on your graph. Here, this is your x, means it goes left to right from the origin, and this tells you to go up or down after you go left or right. So hopefully you got a proper graph. Let's take a peek at what it should look like. So there's your table of values. And I'll leave the table of values on there. And then we plot -2, -9 is 2 to the left. 2 to the left, 9 down, right here. And I'm plotting 0, -5, 0, 5 down. I'm plotting, actually never mind these two I don't need. 2, -1, right there. And then you connect the dots. Now I'm going to ask you to do 2 things, and you need to do these 2 things to get full marks. Or another way of saying that, if you don't do these 2 things, you're going to lose marks, and they're silly marks to lose. So I need arrows on either end of the line that goes through all your points. And I need you to label what's the name of that line. Anybody know what the name of that line is? Anybody have a guess what the name of this line is? Think of your calculator key. Y equals 2x subtract 5. That's the name of this line. You need to put that on the either end of the arrows. But you need 2 arrows, and you need to label for full marks. Or if you don't want to label, just put the title or the name of that line. Because if I get you to graph 3 graphs and you lose a quarter mark every time, all of a sudden you're losing 3%, 4% of your mark for no reason. So that's, excuse me, that's B and C. Notice it doesn't ask you to name the line. I'm going to insist on that. D is an odd one where I'm not going to, Jonas, thank you. No more. I rarely say this, but D says use the graph. That actually means don't show your work. And if you showed your work on D, I would not give you marks. Don't show your work. Because it says use the graph. So if the graph is x equals 6, that means you go 6 to the right. That's right here. And wherever the graph is 6 to the right, up or down, you hit it, and then you go straight left to see what your y equals. So that's how you use the graph to find out what y equals when x equals 6. You go 6 to the right. If it says y equals 6, then you go 6 up and hit the graph the other way. But you use the graph. You don't have to show your work on the graph, but that's how you get it. And I would show the work on the graph, just so your eyes don't miss a unit. And then it says, this one says use the equation. This is where you have to show your work. Okay, SYW means show your work. So you have to plug it into the equation and tell me that you get the same answer if you use the equation. So use the graph means use the graph, not the formula. Use the equation means use the formula, not the graph. I need to see this work for E. So, yeah, never mind. So let's look at G. If you didn't get D right, try to do G real quick. G says use the graph, so don't show your work. What does x equal when y equals 3 on the graph? The one's on your graph. I blew it. Alright, my friends, here is those answers. Usually when I did this, it would erase that all, but not now. Okay, so G, use the graph if y equals 3, so 3 up. Where does the graph hit 3 up? Right here. And so what does x equal? X equals 4. And this makes sense. Linear means line. Okay, so linear relation gives you a line. It doesn't make sense on the next one because quadratic gives you a parabola. Any questions on example? If graphing without a calculator, we'll also be using our calculator to graph. In fact, why don't we do that now? Let's just double check this one. See if you can graph with your calculator. And punch that into your calculator and see if you get the same graph that you got using graph paper. Try to figure it out first before I guide you along. How do you graph this line with your calculator? There it is. Good. All right. Not this one, this one. Now I'll go to my calculator. There it is. Okay, who can tell me how to graph that on my calculator? Anybody else? Next box. Anybody? Anybody want to guess what you press first? You press your y equals button. So top, left-hand corner, press your y equals button. That's how you graph lines and parabolas. Press y equals, and then you put in the equation 2x subtract 5. So you press 2. Where's your x button? Anyone? Okay, it is an even easier one. Good job. You can press the one right beside the alpha. And it automatically gives you the x, but you're right, there is another x button around. We'll use that for the y. And then subtract 3. You can't put negative sign, so this is your subtraction sign. You have to put subtract 3. Now what do you press? Now what do you press? Look at the other corner. Press graph. Okay, top right hand, press graph. And that's not what you get, hopefully, because I was changing my windows. If you get something that doesn't look like what we have, like this. Oops. Forgot we did it on the answer key. Like this. Then press zoom 6 because your windows are messed up. Zoom is your top middle button. So if you press zoom 6, it goes from negative 10 to 10 on the x-axis and negative 10 to 10 on the y-axis. So it's just a standard graph paper. So I'm going to press zoom 6. Most of you have this already, I would think. You probably were just on the standard anyway. So anybody get that? Then you can just check your answer. Does that look like that? Yeah, it does. Okay, so we're on the right track and we didn't make a sign mistake. That's so cool. So, throw your Xbox away. Throw your PlayStation away. Don't throw your puppies, they're too good. But, there's your puppies and do a lot with your pets. Come on, bring them outside. I don't forget the phones and video games. Your pets are more important, including your parents and your brothers and sisters. Play with them. We played story and cards over the weekend, and we had a blast. My daughter, Ocean, I don't know if you ever play golf, but you put 4 cards down. It's really fun and easy to play. All the face cards are with 0, because golf, the lowest score wins. You don't want a 9 or a 10, that's the worst card. And then we've altered it to make it more fun. But her 4 cards were 4 queens. When she got that 4th queen, you know what I did? I went, oh! About 12 times. You know what the probability of 4 queens? We call it an albatross. -3. Oh, that's exciting. The best moment of my life, I think. All right. Let's go to the next non-line parabola, aka smiley face, frowny face. I had a big smiley face when she had 4 queens. All right, this guy. So same thing. We're going to do the first one. Now, what you need to know is, as soon as you see an x squared, the shape is going to be a parabola facing up or a parabola facing down. If you don't have that, you did it wrong. If you get a line, you get it wrong. Okay, so you know that if you got a lightning bolt or half a face and something like that, you did the negatives wrong. Because that's what students do wrong the most, 99% of the time. It's these 3. So let's do one of the negatives properly, the -1. So our equation, it's not that difficult, you guys. You just have to remember to put the -1 in brackets. Use brackets. Don't write it like this because you need this room. But if you put the -1 in brackets, your calculator will give you the right answer. If you don't put it in brackets, your calculator will give you the wrong answer. This does not equal -7, it equals -5. Everyone punches in your calculator. Bracket, -1 and the bracket, squared. Now your x squared button is right here. X squared, it's your square root button, except for you don't press second. But if you don't put the brackets, it's not squaring the -1, it's just squaring the 1 and keeping the negative sign out front and leaving it out front. We discussed the difference between -1 all squared and -1 squared. One with the brackets is positive, the one without the brackets is negative. So it's not your calculator's fault. You got to put it in brackets. And even if you put in brackets, you need to put it in brackets on your calculator, please. Don't put it in your brackets here and then just ignore them when you go punchy-wunchy. Anybody get -5 there? Okay, do the -2 one. And please do what I just said. Use brackets so that you get the right answer and you get these problems right. If you remember, put your negatives in brackets, you're going to get smiley face or frowny face. Smiley face when your wife says, "Lion!" frowny face when you see a 1,000-pound great white shark eyeing you up like a dinner net. Well, I just want to tell stories now. Oh yeah, I'll tell one story. So we're at Shark Alley, South Africa. I don't know, there's probably 10 of us going into the cage. And he goes, okay, who wants to go first? And nobody put their hand up. I do. That's why we went there. So I put my hand up, the other guy put his hand up, but no one else wanted to go. So we got more times in the gauge than the other 8 or 9, but I understand. Because it was hang gliding, I was the exact same as them. Hang gliding, I wasn't the one that's going to jump off the cliff first. I'm going to watch a few people jump off the cliff, and then I'm going to see them not die, and then I'm going to jump off the cliff. So that was my theory on hang gliding. But great white shark gliding, I love fish. I love big fish. So cool. Okay, so this one, for the -2, it should be -2 all squared. Subtract 6. What did that equal, everyone? What? What'd you get? No, good try. You got to put brackets. -2. So 4 subtract 6, -2. Okay, so do the rest of these. And honestly, guys, the positive ones and the 0, no one gets those wrong, because that's just, there's nothing to put brackets around. But the negative signs, you need to put brackets around. So do all those and then graph them on the graph on the next page. Plot the points. And then it's not a line, but same thing is, same rules apply. You're going to draw arrows at the end and label the title of that parabola if you want full marks. So Declan, you have a question?
Why is the x variable -1?
Because it just tells you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll always give you the variables, and you just have to calculate them using the formula. So the equation will align. Good question. Here on the chocolate bar board. Plot those points. Talk about the answer. Well, if you're waiting for me, just go ahead and answer questions that follow. C, D, E, F, and G. And we'll do those together, so don't worry about if you don't get them first. But I do want you to be very concentratable, super focusable, knowable. Now you have a negative number and you have an x squared, you put them in brackets, and you put them in brackets on your calculator. So I guess I should show you that. Let's get off that one. So we have x squared subtract 6. X squared subtract 6. So we have a bracket, -3 squared. That's your x squared button. Anybody got that for the -3 point? Right on. If you don't want to do those, these are going to be 3 marks for you. Okay, so this is your table of values. Anybody get 10, 3? There's no pattern here. 10, 3, negative 2, negative 5, negative 6. Okay, now we start to see some repeats. That's good. Don't worry about the negative 4. You don't have to put that in. If you did, that's fine. And now we plot those points, and you can see as you plot these points, you get a horseshoe or a smiley face or a parabola that faces up. Now again, if you want full marks, you're going to put arrows at the end and label it y equals x squared subtract 6. It's the name of this parabola. It's helpful to know what it's supposed to look like before you even graph it. And technically, if you want to know further, if it's a positive x squared, it points up. If it's a negative x squared, or negative 2x squared, or negative 5x squared, it's going to point down. Okay, so we have this. Now we're going to answer the questions. What's the value of y? Shoot. Value of y of x equals 4. So it says use the graph. Means you don't show your work. X equals 4. That's 4 to the left. Where does the graph hit 4 to the left? Right there. So y equals 10. The graph is 10 up when it's 4 to the left. Use the equation. Well, they do the same thing. And we get the answer 10 a different way. We put the equation in, and please, round brackets. Now the other thing you could do, if you don't want to use a calculator, you could just say negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. What's 16 subtract 6? That's probably quicker than using brackets and calculator. You have to know that every time you square a negative, you're going to get a positive answer. Some of you are nodding, say they like better. Like the value of y, yep, connect, yep, non-linear, that's true. Honestly, not too many people call this non-linear. We're going to call it quadratic. And you're going to have a whole bunch of that in grade 11. Okay, so write down quadratic. Quadratic means parabolas. You might be wondering how to spell parabolas. How to face up, how to face down. Remember, if you don't get a parabola, you did the negative ones. The negative x is wrong. You didn't put them in brackets. So don't be scared, don't be crying, don't scream. It just means go back to your negatives and put them in brackets. Here's the hardest one of them all. Try to do this one before I do. With this equation. Podcast later. But you're on page 10 right now. Page 10. Good, sir. equation. Negative x squared plus 5. Okay, this is how you do it. So you tried, see you got something. So first of all, this negative isn't in brackets, so if you see a negative out in front, you leave it out in front. X is equal to negative 1. So wherever you see an x, so you see negative x squared, wherever you see an x, you put negative 1 in brackets. So that's the weird looking thing you get from this equation, and then plus 5. So you have a negative sign out in front, and your x is negative, so there's another negative in brackets. So calculate that with your calculator. Punch that in your calculator just like that. It'll give you the right answer every time. This is the hardest question I could give you, a negative x squared. What do you get when you punch that in? Show me with your fingers. Nice. Say it as a golfer. Or! Say that all the time. So, how we do that on our calculator is negative sign, not subtraction. So negative beside your enter. And then bracket, negative 1, bracket, x squared button, plus 5. And you get 4. All right, fill in the rest. And I'll leave my calculator on there. Okay, now that you see it, you shouldn't get any of the other ones wrong. And it should turn out to look like what? One of these or one of these? It has x squared, and of course it says negative x squared, it's going to be pointing down. Nice to know that before you even start. Is there any questions on how to calculate these? So Tristan Lucas, this just says if x equals 4, so in brackets you put a 4 here, then whatever it comes out to be, that's your y, and then that's your point that you plot on your graph for, in this case, what's it, negative 11 it would be. Then you plot it on the graph. So Lucas has a podcast from today that listen to tonight, and you'll be all caught up. And the podcast will change your life. How many of you have the travel bug already? Love traveling, love going places. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We certainly couldn't afford to go anywhere. Study star this one for sure. You can do this one, you can do any of them. And also the last problem we did. Right. It's positive. You just put negative out in front, and then you can put brackets if you want it to be. You don't have to put brackets when it's positive. 4x squared plus 5. So you just put the 4 in here. Punch out your calculator. Hi.
When the x is negative, but the inside's brackets and the negative is probably up the other side, so it becomes positive, negative times.
Well, I think I know what you're saying, but you have to do exponents before multiplying, so you wouldn't multiply those two negatives until you do negative 4 times the exponent, so that's why this negative would stay out in front the whole time.
Okay, so you don't have to.
No, your question, that's a super question. Scare you for that one. So you gotta do exponents first and then multiply that negative one out in front. Who's done the table of values? Most of you are looking at me? Alright, let's show you what that should look like anyway. And you can ask me any questions if a number doesn't jive with yours. Negative 11, negative 4, 1, 4, 5. I would say 95% of students get those right. The ones that are not right are these ones. And when you do that, you get something that looks like this when you graph it. Or like that. It doesn't look like a parabola, so go back to your negative coordinates and do them over with brackets. Again, let's just do this last one here, negative 4. So it should be y equals negative, and then x equals negative 4. So you put it around brackets, and then you put plus 5. You punch that into your calculator, you get negative 11. If you don't use brackets, you're going to get all these wrong. And it's going to look like a weird alien guy. And then, of course, when you graph it, you're going to put arrows on it, and you're going to tell me what the name of that parabola is. So you need to put the question as the title of your parabola, or the name of your parabola, for full marks. Okay, you need arrows, and I need the name of it. That's a little... Anybody get this parabola? Anybody at all? Awesome. Good job. Pat yourself on the back. I don't care if you got it now. I care that you know if you made a mistake, you know what you did, and write yourself some notes on what not to do next time. Okay? AKA, put your negative signs in brackets, and this tricky little negative sign in front of x squared has to stay out in front. Oops. Yeah. There you go. Okay, that probably brings us to our next homework. You guys have about 7 minutes to work on 11 to 14 and 7 and 8. Okay, so 7 and 8, if you want to start with there, that you can, so you don't forget about them. Those are independent, dependent variables, inputs, outputs, and stuff like that. If you're rolling on the graphing and you like graphing, go ahead and just keep going with page 11. So homework podcast, people, and thanks for joining us. Page 7, 8, whatever it says for homework, and then page 11, 12, 13, 14. And again, these handouts are huge just because one graph takes a whole page. So don't think it's a tons of homework. You're going to have one question on one page. And that's just the way this unit is going. So make sure you travel, represent Canada wonderfully in your travels, and Jesus, and God bless. Have a Sunday.